tight ends and a fullback. First and goal from the 1. I backs behind Darnold. Handoff straight ahead. Go, baby, yeah! Touchdown! Seahawks! Zach Charbonnet!
And Washington's got a lead. Leon Washington turning on the speed. Washington. He's gone.
He's going to knock this ball out, and then Earl Thomas is going to make Gronkowski pay.
Utah, Crabtree, broken up, picked off! This game is over! Walker now in the backfield. JSN wide to the left side, and Walker's going to get the toss. He's going left side. He's got some blocking. He turns up, he's down inside the 5. Touchdown! Seahawks! Midfield, 45, he's on the run, Lynch, 40, pushes him at 35, look at him go, he's down to 20, 15, he could go, he is gonna go, touchdown Seahawks, oh my word!
Welcome in, everyone, to another episode of the Hawks Eye Podcast. I'm your host, Bryce Coutts, and tonight it's another Seahawks Aftermath episode with my co-host for this sub-show, Michael Thompson. Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. One of our first Aftermaths it felt more like a funeral after the Seahawks gave that game away to the Niners. I think it's literally the exact opposite is what the vibes will be like today. That was the most relaxing Seattle Seahawks football game since the Super Bowl, maybe. It was pretty great.
I don't disagree with that. That might be the most dominating performance we've probably seen since either the Super Bowl or I think it was 2012 when they beat the Cardinals like 52-3 or something at home. In that
58-0.
That's right, 58-0. Thank you.
I looked it up because I think we had 35 points like halfway through the second quarter, and I was like, man, we might actually break the record.
Yeah, and I think that was the thing they even brought up, that this was the first game since that game where they've had that many points off the bat, right off the jump. But I think about it, Mike, we haven't actually talked really or had a Seahawks Aftermath since the 49ers game. So we even didn't get to talk about the Steelers game with that nice comeback from behind win versus the Steelers. But let's start with this. We're going from Lumen Field, which now kind of feels like we might have got some mojo back in our home stadium. Like, I think for your point earlier about that feeling like a doomsday, feeling like a funeral after that 49ers game, to now feel that, kind of situation, like that's the type of win I think they needed to really start building that momentum back for Lumen of completely dominating. Like, we're talking about opening drive touchdown. That's back-to-back weeks now on the road and at home, something that you and me have both talked about with Dan and everyone else that we are connected with in the Seahawks community about. We never seem to be able to score on our opening drives. Now we've got 2 weeks in a row, we've got touchdowns out of them. And then special teams. We were all freaked out about Jay Harbaugh and the special teams unit coming out of the preseason. They're one of the best units right now in the NFL. We're talking about a Seahawks team that's got a top 6, I think it's top 6 offense, top 5 defense, and the number 1 special teams unit. Yep. Like, we're number 1 in DVOA. When was the last time we could really say that we have literally a top 10 unit in every bracket when it comes to offense, defense, and special teams? There's a lot of things to like, but obviously now we're taking this, team on the road on a short week to play a division rival in a stadium that I would say has had its good moments for us, but also has been a stadium of horrors for us at the same time.
Yeah, like one specific moment that I can think of at the 1 yard line, but that's all I want to talk about that. But yeah, no, it's exciting because, it feels like this team's coming together, right? I think we had talked about this in the preseason. We talked about this in training camp. We talked about this after the 49ers losses. hey, we think the defense could be good. I think we're finding out how great it can be. And I'm sure we'll talk about some of the reasons why tonight. But it was kind of like, how long will it take for the offense to be respectable? And then can our special teams not be a liability? In no world did I think it would take 6 quarters for our offense to all of a sudden look like a very efficient, I don't want to say boom or bust, because it feels like it's boom, boom, a slight running back bust, a running play bust, and then more boom. And then the special teams, I never would have thought that we would have the number 1 special teams unit right now, but they're taking care of business with punting. Myers has been really good so far. I mean, a couple little things here and there, but obviously that the blocked field goal got called back and then he made up for it. And then let's just be honest, like George Holani and Tory Horton have like really just changed the dynamic. I feel like ever since, Earl Thomas fumbled that punt return in week 1 after the Super Bowl win against Green Bay, like since that moment, which if you guys remember that, bravo to you. I feel like since that moment for the last decade, it's been, hey, stick the most sure-handed guy back there, have him catch the ball, fair catch it, and let's just get our offense on the field. Like, no, like you've got some guys now in Holani and Horton that are like well on their way to some Pro Bowl, all pro level production. I mean, it was a historic moment what we saw with Horton, and it's just exciting. I feel like this group is coming together at the same time. Unfortunately, and the record maybe doesn't show it right now, the Cardinals and 49ers are physically, it's just hard to imagine them holding up for 17 games, and we'll talk about that today with the news with Connor and Bosa. And then the Rams looked like the best team in football for 3 quarters, and then just had the most epic choke job ever in Philadelphia. And so I just feel like, yeah, we're not in first place, but the vibes for us are going upward, and everyone else, it's more of questions or, oh my gosh, I can't believe we just lost the heart and soul of our team.
Yeah, and so, let's kind of talk about some of that news before we get into reviewing the Saints game a little bit on this Aftermath episode. But Nick Bosa now out for the year, so that's a huge blow to that 49ers.
Brutal.
And CJ West now, I believe, just has to have surgery on his thumb.
Yep.
So we'll see how long he's out for, how that looks. Like that unit now is going to rely on Bryce Huff to kind of be their top pass rusher. And I don't think that's a role he's built to be. Like that 49ers team, which I've kind of felt has been held together by some duct tape with their aging players, is now really kind of falling apart now at the seams. I don't know how they hold through. Mac Jones is now banged up. Brock Purdy's supposed to be back, but how long is he going to hold up for? You're hoping Ayuk can come back and help out Ricky Pearsall. And I will say Ricky Pearsall has been an impressive receiver for them so far through the season.
Yeah.
So, when's George Kittle going to be back and be effective when he does come back? Like, there's a lot of what ifs with the 49ers right now after all these injuries. The Rams, even like Stafford, they lost that game, but they showed chinks in the armor, I think, with their secondary having major issues. Like, couldn't cover A.J. Brown, and they didn't really address it in the offseason. We're talking and re-signed or brought back Ahkello Witherspoon as their big thing they did in the secondary. So that's an area I think we can exploit. We've seen what JSN can do right now, and Cooper Kupp, and now Tory Horton's becoming a massive factor, I think, more so as the season goes along. And then you look at the Cardinals. They've got James Conner, which is like the heart and soul of that team, is now on IR with what looked to be a very gruesome ankle injury. And can Kyler carry that team? Because Marvin Harrison and him are not on, or Marvin Harrison Jr., I should say, and Kyler don't seem to be on the same page right now. I don't know if the offense fits those two players in particular. We know Kyler isn't a big thrower over the middle, really. He likes, very much like Russ does, he likes the things outside the hashes. Well, Marvin's big thing was in breaking routes in college. He was so good on the post, the dig, catching it, going for extra yards. So to me, the interesting thing is we're banged up too. Like, let's not forget Julian Love, Devin Witherspoon, Nick Eamon-Warry. Now Robbie Oots and Josh Jones are guys that are, nicked up. But I look at Seattle and I go, I'd rather take the lumps now and have the health get there with our bye in week 8 to really be potentially the strongest team going down that final stretch of the season. It's going to be really interesting. But the entire division now, I think it's the only division in the NFL where everyone's got a winning record. But it just feels like it's kind of propped up by that, because I feel like the Cardinals, and especially the 49ers, are teams that may start to fall off here as the season goes on a little bit more with some of the injuries and stuff that they're dealing with?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about the NFC West is it'd probably be tough to find a better quartet of coaches, like talented coaches. Like, Gannon may have some very cringeworthy videos and stuff, but I don't think anybody can doubt, like, the Cardinals play really hard for Gannon, and that defense is very good. And that is going to be a test on Thursday night. McVay, he's got a Super Bowl ring. He's been to 2. Shanahan's been to 2. Honestly, should probably have 2 Super Bowl rings. Like, those are brilliant offensive dudes. And then I think we're starting to see Macdonald really start to ascend, right? I think Colin Cowherd had his show that came out either last night or today with John Middlecoff, and they were just talking about how Macdonald's starting to become that dude. So you have great coaches, and then you have a schedule that's built around the AFC South and the NFC South. Like, I think all 4 teams are decent. I think all 4 teams have absolute flaws and they're going through some stuff, but you give me an easier schedule and you give me great coaches, and you're going to get 4 teams that are going to all win 8 to 12 games, right? Like, that's just kind of what's going to happen when you face the South in the AFC and the NFC that have historically been underperforming, been bad, probably other than Tampa Bay. And then we'll see if Indianapolis, if that's real or if that's an illusion. Right now it looks pretty good, but and then even Tampa Bay, they're being held up by, some, I would say, stick figures on the offensive line that Baker Mayfield's running around for his life for, because they just can't get healthy, and Mike Evans is hurt. Like, injuries are just such a massive part of this season already. And it might be the kind of thing that creates a unique opportunity for a team like Seattle, right? Where we survive without Witherspoon and Worry the last 2 games. And maybe our health, really just allows us this new opportunity to kind of change the ceiling of what we thought this team could be, especially after that first loss. But just, again, good coaches, weak schedule, you create this opportunity. The 49ers are just going to be a very fascinating story. They got the easiest schedule in the NFL, right? They went into Seattle and they took a game. They protected home field against the Cardinals with Mac Jones as their starting quarterback. Like, I've heard a lot of people say, yeah, they're 3-0, but they might be the worst looking 3-0 team you've ever seen. That may be, but I just worry about what they'll look like if they can get it all back together healthy. History will show you they won't be able to withstand the next 14 weeks of football, and that they'll break down by the time we see them again. I hope that's the case. And losing Nick Bosa is going to just be massive, and we'll see if that can withhold itself. And let's see if Kyle Shanahan, what kind of magic he can pull, because right now it looks like, yeah, we're not in first place, but I think we have the brightest future and the brightest, like, near future, if that makes sense right now.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, I heard John Middlecoff and Colin Cowherd's show, and, that was one thing for me that I was kind of listening to see, like, where are they resting on Mike Macdonald right now? And they all said that, like, if he was an offensive minded guy and an offense, Seattle would be the talk of the league right now with the way that if it was flipped roles, they would be the talk of the league. But because he's on defense, it's kind of this thing that he's just getting forgotten about to an extent. And so, it's going to be interesting. I think we're in a really good, position to stack some wins and get farther ahead than, where we've necessarily kind of been in the past few years of chasing the teams. We can actually get ahead of the teams in our division and have more control over what goes on. But, I can see everyone in the comments is already starting to talk about the Cardinals matchup and stuff. So we'll quickly go through yesterday's matchup with the Saints, and we go down with three phases and 1 beatdown. And so, we look at this, Sam Darnold had a phenomenal game, like 14 of 18, 218, 2 touchdowns, really good with the ball, got out of some situations. He still got pressured 26 times, which is still something that's kind of to be worrisome about right now, is they're not necessarily getting the sacks, because I think Sam's pocket presence even is getting better and understanding where he is. He's not taking bad sacks or getting into him. And there was that one play where he threw it to JSN. I think it was on the first drive of the game, and no one picked up Brian Breezy, and he came through as a 3-tech, and it was absolutely a communication breakdown between either Sundell and Bradford or Bradford and Lucas and Walker, because Walker looked like he was going to chip and then left. Bradford kind of picked up the D end, and Lucas picked up the guy coming off the edge, the nickel defender, and nobody picked up the 3 tech, who was Brian Breezy, and he came straight through. And I was
a big boy.
That, to be honest with you, like it did not look good.
Yeah, no, I think
we have some technical difficulties there.
Can you hear me?
There you go, Mike. Oh, I got you now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, like, to be honest, I've been very, very impressed with Darnold. I've been pro Darnold. I think it was one of the first things I wrote over at Field Goals was, I think if we sign him, I think it's a really good bet, and I think even he has blown me away so far through 3 games. And more so, honestly, in the last, 2 games, going into Pittsburgh, facing some of the pressure he faced and making some of the plays. And he was just absolutely surgical in the second half in Pittsburgh. And then again, I think, against the Saints, a bad team, but a pretty good defense, feisty defense is probably the way I would describe it so far through the first 2 games. I mean, he just made, anytime he had time, explosive plays. But even the times that, like, when he needs to be mobile, he's more mobile than I thought he was going to be, right? Like, I feel like he's kind of just, I hate to compare it, but like watching Geno right now against the Raiders, it just looks like he's a step slower than maybe last year. And that's what's leading to all that pressure and sacks and just a rough start for Vegas. Whereas Sam is a lot quicker and more, he's just been able to spin out of a few plays that, I just didn't think that he had in him. And then he's making, like, the defense pay for not bringing him to the ground. And so far, only 3 sacks through 3 games. And yeah, there's a credit to the offensive line for that. But I also think a lot of that has to go with the way that Sam has been able to maneuver the pocket, escape pressure, get the ball away, or get anything positive out of it. Like, you take away that 4th and 1 weird interception against the Steelers, it's been pretty flawless, honestly. And, you kind of were wondering what kind of player you were going to get, right? You're going to get MVP Minnesota. Are you going to get, I'm seeing Ghost Jet Sam Darnold? I don't think you're necessarily getting either of those guys, but it's definitely a lot closer to Minnesota. I wrote about this today. He reminds me of maybe like the most talented version of some of the Shanahan Super Bowl quarterbacks, or even Russell Wilson in those first 2 years. Obviously not the mobility that Russell had, but like, he only throws the ball 24.6 times a game through 3 games, but it feels like every pass that he is making is like a big gain. It's a big play. He's been fantastic in the red zone, minus the butt fumble. That wasn't his fault necessarily. If you want to, you would know more than I would if that was his fault, but like, just every time he steps back and throws, I have a really, really good feeling that something good's about to happen. And last year, unfortunately, we just didn't have that vibe. There was just too many turnovers from the quarterback position, too many mistakes in 3rd down, too many mistakes in the red zone. And you take away the horrible interception against Pittsburgh and the butt fumble, like, it's been near flawless, and he looks like a top 5 quarterback, and the stats show it early on. Definitely like a premium game manager is the way I would describe it right now.
No, and I agree. To me, what the best comp I have right now for Sam Darnold, the way he's playing within this offense, especially some of the things I'm seeing, like the 7-step drops from under center with the hitch, and a lot of the things I love seeing as a football coach myself and growing up, really falling in love with the West Coast offense, is he reminds me of a more athletic Matt Hasselbeck. That is like my best
that's
comp
awesome.
for him.
Yep.
He's a more athletic, bigger arm Matt Hasselbeck. And Matt was really good with playing within the right type of system for his skill set. Mm-hmm. And we saw the limitations of Matt when he had Pete and Jeremy Bates and they wanted to take more explosive shots. Matt was always a great rhythm thrower. Like when he was in Holmgren's offenses, it was like 1, 2, 3. He knew where to go with the ball. Ball was out. And Matt, there were bad mistakes here and there, but generally we were in rhythm. The ball was coming out quick. When you made Matt hang on to the ball more, you started to see more of the flaws show up. And that's what we've heard with Sam. So that's where I get the comp for Sam. You look at the rest of the offense, though. Obviously, the offense played well. The defense beat the crap out of the Saints. Like they got after Rattler. They shut down Kamara. They shut down Olave. And then the special teams unit, right? Like they basically, the special teams got us 30 points off of, the Derek Young big kickoff, Tory Horton's punt return, the blocked punt, like the big field goals from Jason Myers. Like they were responsible for 30 of the 44 points basically off of their contributions. That's playing a complete game. And that's something, again, we haven't seen for a while. So as again, 3 phases, 1 beatdown, but this is something I kind of want to talk to you about here, Mike. And I think it goes to what's going on in the chat right now. The numbers, don't lie, or do they? Or numbers never lie, or do they? And the one thing I want to talk about right now, and it kind of goes to this matchup, is this Seattle Seahawks run game. And, it's been kind of, it's like a spark. You see it and you think it's like trying to light a fire, right? You get the kindling going and you think that it's going to hit in roaring flame, and then it kind of just peters out and turns to nothing. And, one thing I will say about it, and I know there's some fans, even in the chat, that I've already seen are talking about it, is, this matchup versus the Cardinals. The Cardinals do have a good run defense. Amongst their injuries, Calais Campbell is still a very good run defender. Thompson is still a good run defender inside. They don't have the edge pressure, really, in some respects, to create a lot of a collapsing pocket. But the Cardinals right now are giving up, what do we got here? I think they're giving up roughly 76 yards a game, 3.8 per carry. They've only given up 1 rushing touchdown first 3 games. Like, it's not necessarily the best matchup for Seattle, but I think there's room for Seattle to get an effective run game started. And you listen to Mike Macdonald today on 710, and then in his press conference that he does on Mondays, like, he's not happy with the inefficiency of the run game currently. When I look at this team, there's 3 things that stood out to me from this game that were bothersome. The run game not being nearly as effective. I get Ken Walker had 2 rushing touchdowns, but it was still not a consistent running performance. Third down conversions, we were 3 of 9. I know we didn't have the ball a lot. We only had 54 plays, but 3 of 9 is still not that stat you want to see, because it's only 33% conversion. And then the other stat for me that kind of, again, bothered me a bit was, and I'm trying to pull it up here. It was, I can't even find the stat that I was looking for. But those are kind of the main things. I'll go with those right now, Mike, is like, this running game needs to find some more consistency, because teams are afraid of it. They're loading the box. I know some people may not think that, but the Saints and teams are trying to take it away, because the one thing Seattle's doing well compared to last year with its ineffective run game is they're sticking with it enough that play action is still there for Sam Darnold and for his offense to be able to take explosive shots and get linebackers and safeties to take that hesitation step. But I think they've got to figure out, okay, how are we going to, maximize what we've got right now, which K9's playing well when he does get the ball. It's just the consistency is lacking.
Yeah, I think I saw, what was it? 33 carries for 87 yards. Like, that's not going to cut it over the course of a season, especially in a Kubiak style offense. Like, I think I hope Clint's dad is calling him up right now and being like, what the heck are you doing, son? Like, we run the football in the Kubiak family. And I'll agree. Like, I think Kenneth Walker got the message after week 1. I think this is the hardest we have seen him run, the most aggressive we have seen him run in the Seattle Seahawks, in his career here. And, I think the red zone, it was interesting. It was almost until we got into the red zone, it just seemed like we couldn't get anything going against that Saints front 7. And then once we got in the red zone, it's almost like the Saints knew a touchdown was coming and they kind of gave up and stuff. But that, you're right. That is something that they have to continue to work on. And when you have essentially, I would consider it, you have 2 rookies, at center and left guard. Yeah, they're best friends or roommates, whatever it is. It's going to take some time. And I think if you told me, hey, would you rather have a great rushing, offensive line early and a rough passing, or vice versa, I think I'd rather have the good passing, protection than the rush. Because I just believe over the course of the season, we're going to figure it out a little bit, right? And I think Seattle very much so figured something out in Pittsburgh in that second half. I thought they ran way more, right up the middle, less of that wide zone stuff, and they had some success there. And then everyone just kind of remembers the big toss to Kenneth Walker for the touchdown to put the game away in Pittsburgh. But we made our hay in that game by just going right at Cam Hayward, right up the middle, right up there's linebackers, getting our guards out onto the second level. And I just don't know. Maybe I just missed it on Sunday, but I didn't feel like I saw that a lot. I think, again, I saw a lot of, wide zone outside plays. And maybe I'm wrong. And maybe that's because Charbonnet wasn't active, that they were less inclined to want to run Kenneth Walker right into the teeth of the defense. But again, a very tough matchup this Thursday night on short rest going against Calais Campbell, that almost single-handedly won that game for the Cardinals against San Francisco. But they've got to figure that out. Without a doubt, if you don't figure out the running game, like you're eventually going to run into a team that's going to figure out how to make Sam Darnold, pressured, or they're going to figure out how to shut down JSN, and you're just going to be asking to play with one hand behind your back. And again, that's the type of team that you see from like a 6 or 7 win team. And I don't think that's who we are. I think we're better than that. But what better way to go than in the desert divisional game, a must win, in my opinion. Like, you got to run the football to get out of there with a victory.
So the one thing I'll say about what you're talking about there, Mike, with the inside run versus the, outside, and what you saw in the San Francisco game with Ken Walker, he had 10 attempts. He had 6 gap runs, 4 zone runs. When you got to the game against Pittsburgh, it was more 50-50. They had 7 zones, 6 gap. Mm-hmm. This last game versus New Orleans, he had 11 zone to 5 gap.
Yeah, I think that you got to find that balance there.
They got to find that balance. And that's the thing. Like, when you look at the year in total, it's 22 zone rush attempts to 17 gap. And I think that's one thing you got to look at with Ken Walker is, okay, we need that balance for him. He's a great change of pace. And yeah, you want to get outside and get the wide zones, kind of what you're basing this offense off of, but you got to have that counter punch. And sometimes Ken Walker, when he can put his foot in the ground on an inside zone, and I think sometimes when they call the zone stuff, they're not really classifying inside or outside on PFF. But some of the gap, I'm sure, is inside zone plays. He's much better sometimes putting his foot in the ground and making one cut and scurrying up the middle for 6 yards, rather than trying to get him on these extended to the perimeter and then kind of turning that corner. And a team like, again, and this is where I'll keep going with this. The other thing I think that will open up this pass game, and I don't know why we haven't done a lot of it, we're really good right now on the play action and drop back into the pocket, right? Like, that's what Sam's done really well so far.
He's cooking right now. Yeah.
He is. But the thing, you saw the JSN touchdown against the Saints is a boot play. We haven't seen a lot of boot plays from the Seahawks this year. And that's something we know is built into this offense. It, to me, will then make those edge players have to stay outside more with Sam actually faking a boot on a handoff because they don't know if he's going to pull it or not, and it'll open up some of those inside cutback lanes. They've got to start getting all of this now incorporated in this offense. You can't keep playing with 3/4 of the deck of cards. And one thing I noticed, which was interesting with Kubiak, and it's the first game I've noticed him do this, he had his call sheet in the second half. In the first half, he was reading right off of it. In the second half, he had a smaller sheet, about a piece of paper that was that big, that he had in front of the call sheet, and he was calling off of and writing stuff on it. And I wonder if that's his way now of making sure he doesn't forget about certain things that worked from the previous half or earlier on some drives, because as you can see, those play sheets get pretty extensive, and sometimes I think guys forget about plays that were working. So that's where I think, we're going to see more of this. They have to get it fixed. They have to. If your head coach is coming out and saying he's not happy with it, it needs to be a point of emphasis. Now, I'll bring this up here. Flying TZ Media, who's been one that's kind of been in here talking about the matchup with the Cards D-line a lot. It's the first time I've actually seen Flying T in here. So welcome to the chat, man, and to the channel. He goes, it's a terrible matchup, especially if Oots is out. And I kind of agree with him. Like, they're going to have to find ways to, manifest runs. And the other thing we haven't seen a lot of in this wide zone scheme, which I thought we would, is we haven't seen a lot of jet sweeps. That's been a staple in the 49ers offense. It's been a staple in the Rams offense of a way to widen that box, widen that front seven out, especially if you're even running the wide zone. And that's where, I think it will be interesting to see how Seattle tries to widen out, because Calais Campbell is going to be a tough matchup for Gray Zabel, a really tough one. And so will Tomlinson inside for Sundell. Like you said, there's 2 rookies basically in there. It's going to be an interesting match.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think this is, again, another game where it'd be great to prove you can go into on the road against a divisional opponent and be able to run the football. Like, these are the games that if you believe that you can get where you want to go, which is to hang a banner for division title, host playoff games, like really start to have that hope and belief, like you've got to go on the road and be able to run the football. Now, being honest, like everything shows that's going to be very difficult to do. And so that's where I think Clint Kubiak's first 15 script is going to be just massively important of getting ahead against these guys. That's where some of that quick game might come up. And you said like that jet sweep, man, like I cannot wait when we start giving those to Tory Horton. Like that's the guy I really want to give those to. Like, yeah, I'm sure JSN can do that, and Cooper Kupp, that made his bones doing that in LA. But like, I feel like at this stage in their careers, one, I want to keep JSN as healthy as possible. Cooper Kupp, like he can do it in a pinch, like, but I'm ready to see what Tory Horton can do off those jet sweeps. Give him some space. He's got the body for it. Anything like, again, I think I'm trying. It's funny. I felt like I was the negative person after week one. I feel like I'm trying to be like the optimistic person right now. Where like, again, these are a lot of new pieces coming together. Rookies, your starting guard, your starting center, your third wide receiver, all kind of rookies, and a new OC, just a lot going on, a new quarterback. And so I'm just interested. I feel like as each game has gone on, each quarter has gone on, when we have actually had our starters in the game, I feel like there's just been a little bit more and more incremental growth. And again, we keep harping on it, like the running game is the next phase, because at some point a defense is going to figure out how to shut down our passing game enough where we're going to have to be able to run the football. But it's going to have to be a little bit creative. And that doesn't mean Jalen Milroe. I just think that means figuring out some other ways, some bubble screens, things to kind of soften up the defense. Or maybe you got to pass to get the run open, which is not exactly the Shanahan-Kubiak style. But who knows in a game that, again, like I said, feels like a must win on Thursday.
All right, so let's move into our truth or overreaction segment of this. And so in this one, I'm going to ask you some questions here, Mike. I'm also going to ask you guys, the viewers, and I want to see what you guys put in the chat. So this is pretty crucial. So here's a truth or overreaction. One, does Seattle have the best defense in the NFC currently? And does, Mike, for you, this defense legitimately start challenging early LOB vibes?
Yes, I think they have the best defense in the NFC. No, I don't think that we may never ever see that again from a franchise perspective. However, I do think this is the best our defense has looked since I want to say even the Super Bowl losing season to New England. I think like it's even better than the year after when we lost to Carolina, because I think that was when you started to see some of the cracks, even though I think we still led the league in total defense. I wrote about it for my article today at Field Goals. Like Josh Jobe and Darion Kendrick just proved that this went from being a potentially top 5 defense to, okay, no, this is like a truly, not just like a top tier defense, but like this is a defense that you can see carry you to an NFC Championship game, or even mess around and get you to a Super Bowl. And I talked about, you need to have a stable of good players, right? You need to have a lot of red chip type of players. And then you'll see some other great defenses that have like two premier edge rushers, or, just a truly like a Micah Parsons or an Aaron Donald that just, everything just channels. A Chris Jones is a perfect example, right? And then, it's hard to get those plus depth. And right now, you can make a case Seattle's blue chips might be a little bit light. However, what we're seeing from Byron Murphy is why you jumped up and down and celebrated getting him at the pick that you did last year in the draft. He looks like a potentially premier defensive tackle in the run and the pass. Leonard Williams, I consider a blue chip player right now. And again, a lot of these pass rush sack numbers aren't showing right now, but the pressure rate, the process is good. The results have not come through fully yet, but it has led to a lot of interceptions, a lot of incompletions. And I think Jobe right now, I believe, has like the 5th or 6th best passer rating against in the league. I think his tape looks like an all-pro level corner. I really do. I think like this is the type of stuff that you see the great teams get. You're like, oh my gosh, they just happen to stumble upon an all-pro cornerback. Cool. Like, no, that legitimately looks like what Josh Jobe looks like through 3 games. Long way to go. Darion Kendrick, thank you, Los Angeles Rams. Another man, one man's trash is another man's come up. Like, seriously, like, he is a turnover machine. He should have 4 interceptions right now. I believe he has the lowest passer rating against. I think I saw today. I want to say Hawk Blogger even posted it on social media. Like, it's a 12 passer rating. Like, it's some insane number. Like, if you throw against him, it's like if I go out there right now and try and throw against him, it's not going to end well, right? And that just, it allows Woolen to be free and not be super stressed out or have so much eyeballs on him. It's allowed Witherspoon and Emanwari to get healthy and Love to miss a game. And, like, I think you have the best secondary in football. I think you have maybe a top 5 pass rush defense stable on your defensive line. Yes, there may not be a Trey Hutchinson. There may not be a Micah Parsons, but it is the collective that is just overwhelming Aaron Rodgers, overwhelming Brock Purdy, overwhelming Spencer Rattler so far, and they're going to get a fantastic opportunity and test against Kyler Murray that is very difficult to go up against, even though Macdonald and the Seahawks have had amazing success against him in his career so far. Linebacker, you have Ernest Jones, who's a stable. I think we'd all agree it's a very light unit, but, like, again, I'm just trying to think who's a better defense in the NFC right now. And I think that right now that defense looks like a legitimate Super Bowl defense. Would I love to go at the deadline and get a pass rusher to go get some more sacks? Absolutely. But, like, what does Nwosu look like as he gets more healthy? Like, I feel like everything is there, to be honest.
Okay, so the next one I've got for you, and is Sam Darnold, and this is a truth or an overreaction, is Sam Darnold actually outperforming the expectations for himself this year?
I would say that's an overreaction. I think you and I have discussed Matt Hasselbeck, prime Kansas City Chiefs, Alex Smith. I think that's kind of what we were hoping to get out of him. This is a guy that has not been asked to throw for 45 times in a game to save the Seahawks, right? We haven't asked him to do that yet. Okay. This is a contract that's very similar to Baker Mayfield, almost identical to what Baker signed in Tampa Bay. And I think Baker grew into that contract and now is one of the best contracts in football. So far, very early, but Sam Darnold is, I think, in a very healthy way, like, learning the Seahawks offense, is being a plus game manager, is taking care of the football. Like, again, special teams plays a big role in it, but still 62-9 is what the Seattle Seahawks have outscored their opponents since halftime of the Steelers game until halftime of the Saints game, before basically Sam Darnold took the rest of the half off almost. Like, I really like what I'm seeing from him. We have not asked him to be franchise quarterback yet, right? There came a point where Tampa Bay asked Baker to do that. That time will eventually come for Sam. It's inevitable. It will happen, whether it's in the regular season, next week, to clinch a playoff berth, to clinch a division, maybe not till the playoffs. That moment comes for every quarterback, and we'll get to that point. But for right now, he's everything you thought he was going to be. He stabilizes the offense. He brings a ton of talent and experience in the Kubiak scheme, and he looks like a guy that, like, if you told me, hey, that's a quarterback that's going to be in the divisional round of a playoff game and his team's in the hunt, I'd be like, I can see it.
All right, so that was the truth or overreaction part, but let's get into this game coming up on Thursday here, the Desert Storm incoming. So the Cardinals, let's give some context here. Cardinals are 2-1. They lost 16-15 to the 49ers, last second field goal. Really, they just couldn't ice the game.
Yeah.
They're missing James Conner. Garrett Williams, their corners on IR. LJ Collier, Seahawks legend, is on IR, so that's clearly going to make a big difference.
Zay Jones has a concussion, right?
I believe Zay Jones has a concussion. So the thing I'm going to ask you about this matchup here, Mike, is, we talked about the run defense earlier for the Cardinals being probably their biggest strength right now on defense. How do you see Seattle's defense? What do you think they're going to do depending on who they get back? How much of a nightmare are they going to be for Kyler Murray to deal with?
Yeah, I think, again, this is just an absolute, like, worst case scenario for the Cardinals. This is the worst time for them to see our defense, right? Like, we talked about it earlier. That's the heart and soul of their offense, is James Conner. Like, that was the guy that got hit and fell over for 3 yards. Like, he was their version, a much lighter version, but their version of Marshawn Lynch, were like just positive yards, attitude, protecting Kyler Murray in the backfield on passing plays. This is a team that just lost, I would say, their second best offensive player to Trey McBride. Now, that's the one guy that definitely spooks me, and I definitely would love to get Worry back because McBride has had a lot of success against the Seahawks. And I feel like, to be honest, that's kind of the reason why you traded up for Nick Worry, right? Is, all that he can do, but he feels and looks like the kind of guy that you brought in to shut down tight ends. And when you're in a division that has Sean McVay that, can figure out how to make any tight end look pretty good, you have George Kittle, you have Trey McBride. These are guys you're going to have to deal with for all of Worry's rookie contract. And so I would love to see him healthy and love to see him just get in McBride's grill and make his life a living hell on Thursday night. Because right now with 4 guys, you are getting pressure better than anyone in the National Football League, right? And that's the name of the game on defense. And Kyler Murray has never really had much success against the Seattle Seahawks and has looked really rough against Macdonald last year, right? I think that was arguably his worst game of his career was the home loss or the loss at Seattle. And so, again, he loses his safety valve. One, he's got Trey McBride. Until Marvin Harrison looks like the guy we all thought, like, what is it that they used to call him on Fox, Maserati Jones or whatever it is, like Maserati Harrison, whatever they used to call him. Like, man, it is crazy to even think that like that's the same guy. It's just fascinating. And you saw it this week in the post game. I think it was today it came out. Gannon getting a little bit short with the media, questioning the offensive coordinator and saying, "Hey, I know every play that's happening. You want to question the plays, come after me." This is the time you like to see, bring your defense to Arizona because, that kind of pressure, maybe it makes the offensive coordinator do something that he's not used to doing. And to me, that just screams a great opportunity to force some more turnovers. I think this is a great opportunity to get some more sacks. And again, you're the best rush defense, I think, in the league right now, or one of the best. And if Arizona can't run the ball, it takes away a ton of what Kyler Murray can do. And so I just feel like this is another game where we're just going to see Kyler Murray fade, barring, mistakes or penalties and stuff. And as long as Seattle doesn't turn the ball over, this feels like a game that you should be able to squeeze the life out of Arizona over the course of 60 minutes.
That's kind of how I look at it too with this one. I really look at it as if Seattle can find a way to have an effective run game. I'm not saying go for 120. I'm saying just effective. Keep Arizona
move the chains
honest.
A few times. Yep.
Exactly. Keep the tempo of the game in their control and put Kyler in 3rd and long. When Kyler's stuck in 3rd and long situations, he can't throw down the middle of the field. We saw it last year where Ernest Jones got the interception and then Kobe Bryant got the interception. And Mookie brings up a really good point here. Mookie Alexander from Field Goals, our boss, joining the chat here. He goes, the speed of the Seahawks defense is exactly what can neutralize Murray. 100%. And that's the thing. The interesting thing I'll say about the linebackers right now for Seattle, and I noticed this in this last game, Drake Thomas is getting more run now, which is really interesting.
He feels like the number 2 guy now.
Yeah, he's now the weak side linebacker. I don't know if there's something up with Knight or if he's still got issues, but Drake Thomas is now basically the will linebacker to Ernest Jones, which I find kind of interesting because it seems like Knight's more the 3rd down guy occasionally in certain packages. And I think that just goes to how smart Thomas is as a player, and that's one thing they absolutely love about him. Yeah. So, that's one thing, we'll look into that. But let's kind of go into the matchups here in this game, Mike. And I'm going to give you a couple ones to watch and tell me what your feelings are on them. First one, Seahawks receivers versus Cardinals secondary. You got Horton, Cup, JSN versus Will Johnson, and basically Buda Baker and depth corners for the Cardinals right now.
Yeah, I think you can make a case this is maybe where the game gets decided, other than the trenches, which decides almost every game anyways. JSN right now looks like clearing away one of, if not the best receiver in football through 3 games. And he's going to have arguably one of his tougher tests to start the season. Buda Baker is still an all-pro, Hall of Fame potential looking safety. Will Johnson looks like a guy where I obviously have no regrets about our draft. I love our draft, but that's a guy that we passed up on that I know that was our last 30 visit, I believe, that we had with him. And he looks like the guy that probably should have gone the top 15. And if we'll see how that looks with I think it's his knee that was in question and stuff. But so far it looks really strong. Now I will say there was a couple times, he got beat against the 49ers, and that's a matchup right now I like JSN in. Cooper Kupp, Tory Horton, who has slowly progressed. Obviously the special teams play was a big play, but Tory Horton also 3 catches, 32 yards, had another touchdown in the second quarter. Like, can you generate enough pass? Like, can you get enough explosive plays? I feel like this is a game where if anybody gets to 20, they're probably going to win. And I think this is what happens when you have 2 defensive coaches that know each other. A road game for us, a Thursday night, short week, everything just screams like who's going to win special teams, which I feel really good about us right now. Who's going to make fewer mistakes, which right now I feel better about us because of our health and stuff and just the matchups. But that's an area where, man, if Buddha picks one off or if Will Johnson can pick one off and give Arizona a short field and a quick 6 or something like that, that's how you kind of create. In my mind, I think we should be favored. I haven't looked at the lines yet. I just think we're in a better spot right now. But that's how I think Arizona wins this game is they get out early ahead 13-0 or 10-0 because Sam Darnold turns the ball over or something like that. And that's, again, I just have a hard time other than a sack fumble. I just feel like it's if we can just move the ball enough through the air and not turn the ball over and not let Buddha Baker do what he's done to us in the past, we should be able to be playing ahead, which is where we are much more suited to be successful.
I agree with all of that. I don't have anything really to add to that, Mike, because that kind of is exactly how I feel in this situation. And so the next matchup I've got here is Seattle's pass protection versus this Cardinals front, and including the linebackers in that. Seattle in week 1 only gave up 7, I believe, pressures to the 49ers.
Yeah.
Week 2, 24. Week 3 now 26. That number has jumped dramatically. The pressures haven't gotten into sacks, but pressure is still pressure at the end of the day on a quarterback, and Sam's been dealing with it really well. How do you see that matchup going this week?
I mean, that's going to be a battle, right? That's one on paper. I would like to say, hey, on the edges, I do feel like I like Cross and Lucas against their edge guys, but interior, I mean, dude, Calais Campbell is a bad man. He is just, and you even said as well, Tomlinson's, been a really plus player, but it's amazing the way Calais Campbell has just continued to be dominant. And like Mookie said, their defense is quite good. I just have a hard time again seeing us get to 24 points, right? And that's where it's just man, if we can figure out how to get to 20, because I think it's going to be tough sledding running the football. I think, again, quick plays, we're going to have to hit a few screens. And then you're going to have to hit 1 or 2 home run balls. And then your defense is just going to have to maybe generate something for you as well. And that's how you get to 20 and stuff. And so I think one thing to look at when you have that concern that you have up the middle, that's where you need to look to outside. And that's where I think some of those things where Cooper Kupp, this might be the most important game early on in the season for us against a team where I think he's the old reliable guy that we need to. I know JSN's been Mr. Reliable for Sam Darnold, but this might be that game where, hey, Kupp, one more time, we need you to cook another NFC West opponent and just figure out how to move the chains 5 or 6 times for us.
So I'll ask this to the 12 sitting in the chat right now. Which matchup matters most? The wide receivers versus secondary, or Seattle's receivers versus Cardinals secondary, or I will say Seattle's offensive line holding up in pass protection versus this defensive front from the Arizona Cardinals. And Mike, I'll give this one to you right now. Who is your X factor in this game? Which Seahawks player will be your X factor?
X factor. I'm going to say my big X factor is going to be Derek Hall. Okay. The reason why is because I think he's playing at a Pro Bowl near all pro level with the pressure that he's generating. He's destroying plays in the run game, and he is making life very miserable for quarterbacks. They have to leave the pocket against him. And I mean, the highlights are unbelievable. He is literally just bull rushing people out of the state of Washington, right? In those 2 games that we've watched him in Seattle, and even against Pittsburgh, he looked fantastic as well. And yet he hasn't generated a sack, right? I think he's generating a QB pressure on almost 20% of his snaps. That is amazing. That is blue chip level stuff, but the numbers don't show it yet. And like we had talked about with Leonard Williams as well, unbelievable. We just haven't seen it quite yet. This is a game where that power And especially if Paris Johnson doesn't go or is not healthy, I absolutely love Derek Hall against this Arizona offensive line. One, to just make sure, there for sure is going to be no rushing on your end tonight, but also Kyler Murray, you better know where I'm at, because I'm going to take away this side of the field from you, because I'm going to be pushing your offensive tackle right into your face every single play. I think this is the night where like Hall is about to break out, and I wouldn't be surprised to see 2.5 sacks from him in a big defensive slugfest on Thursday night.
All right, and so we'll get right into this as the next one, Mike, are my 3 keys to victory versus Arizona, and we'll kind of go through that right now. So my first key for this game is they've got to clamp the chains. And what I mean by that with this group is and let me get this banner out of the way as it hangs out in that area. What I mean by that is Seattle's got to get Arizona into 3rd and longs, like we talked about,
Yeah.
They've, they're allowing opponents to convert just 41% of their 3rd downs, ranking middle of the league, but it's improving each week. Like this past week, it was 33%. Like I think they were 5 of 15, the Saints, on 3rd down. Consistently putting the game on their teams facing Kyler Murray, this becomes even more critical. Murray is at his best when he can improvise on 3rd and manageables. And what I mean by 3rd and manageable is 3rd and 7 or less, where he can get out of that pocket, scramble, extend the play. Basically, like Mike Macdonald says, there's that initial play for the first 4 seconds. And then when you get these quarterbacks like a Lamar, like a Kyler, like a Josh Allen, they create the second play. Now that's a 14-second play because they've added another 7 seconds with their ability to produce outside of the pocket. So that's my first key to this game, Mike. My second key is attack the gaps.
Amen, brother. Amen.
Is even, with the veteran additions they made in Dalvin Tomlinson, Calais Campbell, it hasn't been a dominant group yet. Like the defensive line there is good, but I haven't seen them be dominant yet. And so I think if Seattle can get in this picture, K9 going and get Charbonnet going and get 4 or 5 yards on early downs, it forces Arizona to start committing Budda Baker to the box because he's one of their best tackling defenders. And that's where you're going to get those play action shots for Darnold down the field. You got to establish that run. It also protects the Seattle offensive line too, which, like I said, has given up 26 pressures to a beat up New Orleans defensive line. That's the second key for me in this one. And the third and final key is kind of what we talked about. Exploit the edges. Take advantage of this secondary. Get Cooper Kupp and JSN and Tory Horton involved. Get the ball out of Sam's hand quick on some quick game stuff, slants. Maybe you get a few double moves with JSN or Tory Horton. Some of these bubble screens and quick screens, get those implemented in. Force the depth of this Cardinals secondary now to have to come up and play against top or, a good receiving group in the NFL and Cooper Kupp, JSN, Tory Horton, and make them cover the full field. Don't play in the little box. Expand it. Let them play. You can move all your condensed formations around and stuff. Finally, that's kind of it. Those are my 3 keys to a Seahawks victory on this, Mike. And I think they're 3 obtainable keys for Seattle to get a victory.
Yeah, 100%. I think you and I are on the same page. Like, this is a game where you just got, I don't want to say you play it safe, but you got to choose your moments to be aggressive, because I think it is going to be just a very much defensive slugfest. Field positioning, special teams will play a big role. I think you kind of nailed it on your second one. Like, if the Seahawks can average 4 yards a carry, that's nothing to write home about, but I think that's the magic number. If you can break through into the 4 or up range, then I feel like very strongly this is a game that you're going to control, and you're going to be forcing the Cardinals to play catch up. If you can't, then you're asking Darnold to do what we had talked about earlier. Hey, can you bail us out because we can't really run the ball right now? Because you shouldn't expect a punt return for a touchdown. You shouldn't expect a punt block that leads to a score. And so, this is a scenario where you're probably going to be in a 1-possession game going to the 4th quarter. And so if you can run out the clock with a 4-minute offense, take a little pressure off Darnold, then I really like our chances.
All right. So, Mike, now the fun part of this is we're going to do the 2-minute drill. So everyone that's been in the chat before, we do this with most of our guests that come on the show. We do the 2-minute drill. And so we're going to get into the 2-minute drill right after this.
Set, go. Set, go.
All right, Mike. First question in a 2-minute drill for this game. More important, pass rush or Seattle run game?
Seattle run game.
Okay. Question 2. Who scores first, JSN, Walker, Horton, or a defensive player?
JSN.
Okay. Question 3. More turnovers, Seahawks D or Cardinals D?
Seahawks D.
Okay. Question 4. Who will lead Seattle in tackles in this game?
Devin Witherspoon.
Okay. Question 5. Over under 225 yards passing for Sam Darnold.
Under.
Okay. Question 6. More explosive plays. Horton, JSN, and Cup combined or Trey McBride?
Trey McBride.
Okay. Question 7. More rushing yards. Walker or the Arizona running back room?
Walker.
Okay. Question 8. Does Kyler get sacked 3+ times?
Yes.
Question 9. Which unit scores first? Offense, defense, or special teams?
Special teams.
Okay. And 10. One word to describe the Seahawks team after 3 weeks.
Hopeful.
All right. And that's the 2-minute drill. There you go, Mike. You did your first 2-minute drill segment.
I didn't even need to use any timeouts. I didn't even listen to the OC in the headset. I went for it, man. I was like Joe Montana in his prime.
Dan comes in with over 225. He's very confident that Sam Darnold's going to go over 225. And he also has Walker over 100. So Dan's pretty confident going into this one. So I like it. So
Dan, I'm with you on the K9. I think K9's going to bust one out. And that's kind of why I have Darnold not getting as many passing yards, because I think we're going to get one of those 60, 50-yard rushing touchdowns.
All right. And like we do with every live show, we're going to do the 12s Q&A Blitz. So there's been a few of them in the comments, and there's 1,000 of you guys watching this. And so anyone that's over on Twitter, feel free to put your comments in there as well. It will populate into the chat here, and I'll be able to read them on as if you're watching through the Twitter feed. And then there's 106 of you guys on the channel, which is awesome. Really appreciate you guys being in here. So let's go with the first one I've got teed up in here, and it's Bill Anderson coming in. Bill's always been great in the chat. He goes, still not happy with the run game. And I think this goes back to our earlier thing about things with this team. Even though they had a big blowout dominant win over the Saints, there's still areas for this team to get better in. And I agree with Bill. I think the run game is that area. We've talked about it at length tonight. They've got to find a way to get it to be more sustainable and more effective consistently.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think it'll be interesting to watch now that the tape is coming out more and more. As defenses start to basically game plan against JSN, because he's starting to look like an all-pro receiver statistically and just looks the part right now. Like, does that open up more opportunities where the run game gets a little bit better opportunity? I don't know. We'll see. But this is going to start adjusting. These seasons are played in almost 4-week stretches, and we're hitting the end of this first, stretch. And it's a short week, so I don't think there's a whole lot of adjustments you're going to see from Arizona against Seattle. Maybe we'll see a little bit on Thursday of more coverage for JSN, and maybe that opens up some of that running game.
So you know what's funny? I got a question here for you, Mike, that kind of plays off a little bit of what you were just talking about with JSN.
Yeah.
Is JSN the best Ohio State Buckeye receiver that has come out in the last, say, 7
since the Ryan Day, Urban Meyer era?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's Garrett Wilson, Olave, Marvin Harrison. So Mike Thomas he's the best so far, I think, right? Like his 3-year prime was Hall of Fame numbers, and then essentially everything around him died or retired, right? Is that kind of? But I think Mike Thomas was like the number 1 pick in fantasy for a couple years, right? Like that was the kind of guy he was. I would say JSN's behind him, but like I'm trying to think, name another person that he wouldn't be ahead of. Like,
that's what I mean.
It's been unbelievable.
He, to me, I think, in my opinion, he is the best that's currently come out as of, recently with this group. So, Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we're missing a guy, but again, just the way he was his sophomore year, that Rose Bowl, like it just was like, oh, like he kind of looks like, again, I'm not saying he is this guy, but like you look at the Jerry Rice highlights back in the day or the Antonio Brown in his prime, like there was never one thing that AB or Jerry Rice like is exactly known for, other than they were always freaking open, right? Like, and every time you see the ball thrown to JSN, he looks freaking open, like wide open. And it's like, man, how does that happen? And it's a testament to him. And so I think he might just have that specific it factor, it gene that allows him to just be just a massive an explosive play guy almost every time he touches the ball.
Yeah, no, I like JSN proves he can play outside. That's the one thing for me where I look at JSN and I go, yep, he can play outside. He's not just this guy that's stuck to being, a certain area on the field. Like he can actually go and play outside and be a factor outside. So,
and like one thing that's interesting, like nobody ever talks about it. Like he's basically got 2 or 3 game-winning touchdowns in his early career already. Like the Eagles touchdown is like definitely on his career highlight reel. The bubble screen that he took to the house against the Browns a couple years ago, like he's got these highlight moment plays. It's just, he can play outside, but you don't think him as an outside receiver. He can play inside, but you don't necessarily think about him as an outside receiver. He does burn away from people, but you don't think about him as a burn away guy. Like it's just a I don't know. It's just that Reggie Wayne, that Marvin Harrison, like just that vibe of like just a Hall of Fame level production from a guy that like you wouldn't necessarily expect it based off his measurables, if that makes sense.
No, 100%. And I think that's, a very fair way to look at it. So let's look at some of the other ones. We got John in here. Says, Hawks fan, and I live in Las Vegas. I got so stoked from the last 2 weeks that I bought Thursday night tickets and driving to Glendale. I think the 12s are going to show up and home and away for the rest of the year. I think it'll be really interesting because I've heard they're pretty cheap tickets right now. I've heard somewhere that they're like $40 to go to that Thursday night game. So I could see a lot of Seahawk fans that think, hey, I can, quick little getaway to, Phoenix for a couple of days. Why not go check out the Hawks game down there? That's awesome, John. Jealous of you, man. I'm probably going to the Minnesota Vikings game here in November for the Seahawks. So looking forward to that one. I went to it last year, and now that Sam's on our side, hopefully he throws the touchdown with 4 minutes left to JSN to beat the Vikings. But Dogzilla's in here. Run blocking needs to be a lot better. Agreed.
Amen.
And then we got Robert in here. Thank you, Robert, for the $10 donation. Always appreciate your generosity, man. I was to see more under center, balanced offense, attack versus the Cards. I think they're getting better with the under center. I think they were almost 60% this last game being under center.
Yeah, this might not be the game that actually happens, Robert, is because if Campbell and Tomlinson are just having their way early on, then that play script's going to get not abandoned, but adjusted pretty quickly. And you're going to see a lot more of what you saw in the 49ers game out of necessity. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully they can bust a few plays out of that under center, but that might be on the thing.
Dan comes in with Eagles and Hawks for the Seahawks defense, or for the NFC defense, to see who the top. I'd say Green Bay's the other team I'd probably throw in that conversation with the Hawks, is maybe that's your top 3 defenses right now in the NFL. Got CP in here. Hey, Bryce, congrats on first 1,000 subscribers. Yes, thank you, everybody. Beat the 1,000 mark. Now it's trying to beat the 2,000 mark. So I appreciate everyone in this community for helping me get past that so quickly. I think we did that in just over a month, which has been awesome. So really appreciate everyone and helping out with that. Howard's got one. Do you guys think our front seven is better than the LOBs?
I'm going to say no, because Bobby Wagner is one of the 5 to 6 most decorated linebackers in NFL history. I think is the best way to put it. And Michael Bennett and Cliff Arroll, man, if they stayed healthy, or, I don't know if they're Hall of Fame players, but if you want to talk about how good that front seven was, go back, and I know this is painful. NFL Network did a documentary on the Patriots Super Bowl 49 team, and that whole Super Bowl, that whole offense, and Bill Belichick just talked they were genuinely afraid of Michael Bennett and what he was capable of doing to them. And like, I just think about how great that team was that we should have beat, and the way they talked about Michael Bennett. I don't know if we're there yet, right? And I think we're a little bit more unheralded. But I think Bobby Wagner is just, and just the edges is what kind of gives it up for me. Whereas I do agree. I think the trio of Leonard Williams, Jaron Reed, who's arguably the most underrated defensive tackle in the NFL right now, and then Byron Murphy is the biggest rising star as a defensive tackle in the league. Sure, I'll give you that. I think I would take that interior defensive, but still right now, give me what Cliff and give me what Michael Bennett provided. And I want to say Chris Clemens was on that Super Bowl team, right? Like, I know that was like for sure his last year of like still having it, but like give me that trio over the quartet that we have right now for sure.
So it's really interesting because I don't think they're anywhere. They're not close enough yet to that LB group, because you want to talk about the front seven. So we're including linebackers in that discussion point. So you mentioned Bobby Wagner, who's going to be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
KJ Wright is one of the most underrated linebackers that's played in the last 15 years in the NFL. You know, and then to talk about that, you know, rush group, you had Cliff Averill, you had Michael Bennett, you had Chris Clemens. You also had Bruce Irvin at that point, who truly was just a rush edge defender, and he was doing quite
Bruce
well.
Irvin, yeah.
Yeah, right? So group, Clint McDonald, you know, Red Bryant, Tony McDaniel, like I'd say out of this, like it's hard, because I would say I'd bring Leo over Tony McDaniel, and I would bring Byron Murphy over Clint McDonald, but I don't take Jaron Reed over Brandon Meebane. I love Jaron Reed, but Brandon Meebane was really good. Those would be my only substitutions. Other than that, I'm keeping the rest of that LOB front seven unit together as that group, because they were so good.
That linebacking core was perfect, man.
Yeah, Dogzilla in with a $2 donation. He goes, "Thanks for the fun show. Appreciate it." And guys, yes, this will be happening every Monday as long as our schedules permit. Me and Mike will be doing Seahawks Aftermath. So we got some predictions on scores in here, Mike. 31-10 from Dan. He is just riding the wave of good times.
Love it, Dan. Love it.
Levitate Music in with Seattle 27, Cards 17. Ian Victor, and this is where we're talking about things that worry us more. Offensive line versus defensive line on both sides. Yep, I would agree with that, Ian. And Ian's one of our moderators in the chat, so always appreciate you being in here, Ian.
Thank you, Ian.
You and Amy Holmes have that job. And I haven't seen Amy in here tonight. I guess she's having a night off from her Seahawks content for the night, so I'm sure we'll see Amy in the comment section when this gets posted. Scott in here goes the offensive line for sure. TR Pierce, same thing. O-line versus D-line. Hawk Skull. Oots could be the key to keeping Sam clean this game if he plays the running back role in pass plays. I'll push one back on this. I don't think Oots is the best one for the pass pro role. Having Zach Charbonnet back will be key. And he was a full participant today. And actually, speaking of that, I forgot to throw that up right now on the screen, but I will do it right now. Here is the injury report as of today. So as you can see, you know, there's some guys that are on banged up, but Zach Charbonnet was a full participant. Eamon Ward is a limited participant. You know, Josh Jones and Robbie Oots are the only two that didn't participate, which we expected from Mike Macdonald's press conference. Julian Love was limited. You know, Devin Witherspoon was back, being a limited. Those are good signs that these guys will be probably playing potentially this week. So we'll have to see how that all kind of shapes up in that regard. And what else we got? Bill comes back in. He goes, this could be a 7-6 game either way. The last Thursday night game that horrified me the most was the one where we tied 6-6, remember, in overtime?
Yes.
Both field goal kickers nailed the uprights. Hauschka had the last kick, and we were all like, oh, this is easy. It's Hausch money. He's going to – and ding, and we hit the upright. And it was like even Pete Carroll's expression on the sideline is like, what just happened?
One of the best gifts of all time is Pete Carroll after the doink. It's beautiful. I use it all the time.
He just looks so stunned in that.
Yeah.
Levitate goes, this defense has depth. I agree. It
Absolutely.
does. It has a very good set of depth players in it. Oh, WD Ford in here. Love it. More likely to flop, Lockett or Cup. I think what he's talking about, I could be wrong, but I'm not sure if he's talking about who ends up on the ground and kind of rolls for extra yards, or
No.
that's what I could be. I'm guessing here with Ford, if that's where he's going with.
If that's what he means, I mean, Lockett's the best,
Yak
possum
roller.
wide receiver I've ever seen. Yeah, possum, I think is the term I've heard.
Ian comes in here, about to leave the show for the night. Just going to say I predict a win Thursday against Arizona. The Ravens miss Mike Macdonald and can't wait for the cavalry to be back. Even Riley Mills midseason. That's going to be another thing. Mike Morris has been playing well. Like,
yep.
You know, it's going to be really interesting.
Depth.
Oh, here's one. Scary Terry. Scary Terry has been good.
Yeah. I would put Terry McLaurin above JSN. I would go Mike Thomas, Terry McLaurin, but I think there's a chance JSN moves into that, like, I think he becomes a more valuable player than Scary Terry after the season. Obviously, Terry is now an expensive player, whereas JSN won't be for another year or so. But, like, yeah, for right now, for sure, Terry McLaurin. Now, if you ask me who would I rather have on the team right now, I would still say JSN.
Oh, agreed. I'd still want JSN on here. So, all right, Mike. Well, we're going to get wrapping this up here. It's been about an hour and 10 minutes or so.
It's been fun.
Appreciate everyone. So, final word, final score. Mike, what is your final prediction for the Seahawks score in this game?
Yeah, you got to win this game to still have hope for winning the division. I think you can lose this game and make the playoffs, but I don't think that's the way this team is thinking right now. I think there's blood in the water in Arizona. This is going to be a defensive slugfest. I think the Seahawks are going to get a late defensive score or turnover at the very end, and they're going to win 23-10. Seahawks over the Cardinals in a defensive slugfest.
All right, and I'll put my score projection up on the screen here. I've got Seattle winning 27-17. I think Seattle pulls away because the defense forces Kyler Murray into predictable long yardage situations, and we know Kyler struggles with them. So I got Seattle going to 3-1 at this point in the season. They should be 4-0. We all know this. Mike, couple more questions here.
Yeah,
this is the one I'll kind of drop. And you know what? I want to hear from the viewers as well in the chat. So make sure to throw these in. What Seahawk player will we be talking about the most on Friday?
I want to say it's going to be on the offensive side. I'll go Kenneth Walker. I think, again, he breaks through and we'll have a big run that will kind of give us the lead in that game before we pull away late. And then defensively, I think we're going to walk away on Thursday night being like, oh my gosh, Josh Jobe might be the best cornerback in football right now. I think he's gonna make the big play on defense. Maybe that's the defensive line creating something for him. But I just feel like this is building and building and building. And I think Josh Jobe will have a big moment to where you'll, like, on Friday morning on Good Morning Football or whatever it is on NFL Network and Sports Center, it's gonna be like, where did this Josh Jobe guy come from? Oh my gosh, all of a sudden he's playing like the best defensive back in the NFL. Did Seattle stumble? Like, that's where all the articles and the content's gonna come on. I feel like Josh Jobe elevates himself to becoming a borderline household name after Thursday Night Football. That's my bold prediction for that.
Okay, so for my two for Friday, I think on offense, the word is going to be Elijah Arroyo. I think he is going to go off in this game because I think there's going to be problems where he's going to get kind of just a matchup favorable situation. I don't think they're going to put Buddha on him, and I think he's going to just I got a feeling Arroyo could get 2 touchdowns in this game and get 60 yards receiving. Like, that's what I think.
That'd be awesome.
And I think that could be a really big factor. And then on defense, I'm going to go with, I think Byron Murphy has 2.5 sacks. And now the conversation starts of, now we understand why Seattle took him and why he was considered the best defensive player in the draft 2 years ago when he came out. And I think you're going to start seeing the true rise of Byron Murphy into being one of the elite defensive tackles, all-around defensive tackles in the NFL. So those are me and Mike's kind of final words, final score predictions, upcoming content. So, guys, this week I will be having Blake Murphy on from I can't remember what he calls his podcast now. I don't want to be the worst guest in the world and forget what his podcast is called, because I'd be a horrible person for that. Redbird Reboot. Thank you, because he changed it. So Blake Murphy from Redbird Reboot is going to be joining me to do a show, kind of a preview show. It'll be dropping Thursday morning. So make sure you guys check that one out. We're going to get a Cardinals content creator on to kind of discuss that. On top of that, this will be coming out on Wednesday, everyone. So make sure you have your notifications clicked. The Seahawks Syndicate is back. It is coming out this week. So it'll be myself, Mookie Alexander, Dan Viens of Seahawks Forever, and Brandon Kane of the Hawks Nest. And we're going to be doing a recap of the first 3 weeks or 4 weeks, I guess, of the NFL season. And we will be doing a discussion piece on surprises, guys that have kind of maybe not lived up to the hype, some who have. So make sure you guys got tuned in 5 o'clock Pacific time on Wednesday night. So make sure you guys have that one all clicked in and locked up. It'll be a good show, and we do those at the end of every month on the Wednesday. So lots of cool stuff coming out. And then obviously I won't be able to do a post-game show live right after on Thursday due to my coaching commitments I have, but I will be doing one Friday night. So make sure you guys tune in for that. We'll be doing a live post-game show on Friday to break down everything Seahawks, Arizona Cardinals. So Mike, any final words from you?
No, I'm excited. This is a big weekend in Seattle sports, and now it's going to be an even bigger week in Seattle sports. We got the Mariners going for the division, the Seahawks going to essentially try and state their claim in the NFC West and where they're at, and it's exciting, man. It's cool to have, relevant teams going in Seattle right now, and I'm just excited to see this defense go against these Cardinals, and I'm excited to see us go into the desert, which has been almost like a home game the last couple of years, and come out of there with another W.
And I was going to ask Mike, any cool articles from you coming out on field goals?
Yeah, I just today, not too long ago, my 4-down territory dropped. If you want to check out my breakdown of the Saints game and kind of just where I think the Seahawks team is heading, I may or may not have called this team maybe turning into Baltimore West, which if I'm looking at what the score is of Monday Night Football tonight, that's not what I meant by that. I meant that in a good way. But yeah, every week I'll have 4-down territory, and then maybe have some college football stuff coming up here pretty soon as that season's starting to really get into full swing.
All right. And for me, you guys can always find my stuff over on Field Goals as well. I'm over there. The podcast's up there. I write some articles up there as well. Go follow the rest of the group over there at Field Goals. John Gilbert, Mookie Alexander, everyone there that's a part of that group does amazing work. There's articles coming out constantly, so make sure you check out that website all the time at fieldgoals.com. And if you haven't already and you like the content here, don't forget, like, subscribe, click that notification button. There's content coming out as frequently as I can get it out, usually a new episode every other day. So make sure you guys are tuned in for those. And again, always engage in the comments. We love having the conversation with you guys live. I also love having the comments on the videos when they're posted and having conversations with you guys there. So outside of that, Mike, I don't think there's anything else to say other than this should be a banger down there in the desert.
Yeah.
And go Hawks.
Go Hawks.